Thank you, President. I rise today to deliver my second reading speech on the Assisted Reproductive Technology and Surrogacy Bill 2025. Now, our job in this place is to be honest, so I'm going to outline my concerns I have with this bill. This bill to me is putting adults' wants ahead of young people's futures. It's not something I'm prepared to do. I worked with young people for a long time, and as many have heard of my own upbringing and being in single parent family and stuff, I've had personal experiences in it, but also talking over many years to many young people in how they feel with being in family breakdown and all the stuff that comes with that, the trauma that comes with, well, this bill outlines that it's going to be given to singles, same-sex couples, transgender and intersex individuals. I've got no problem. I'm not here to talk against the LGBT community, the gay couples, gay men in same-sex couples, same with the females. My problem with this bill is more with the single side of things, coming from an angle, and we talk about this bill, I keep hearing like this bill's all about what people should be able to have, the equality and rights, and it's not a human right to have a child. It's the child's right as a human to be born into a world in the best possible scenario. And we can all debate about that, and there's been debates on whether you talk about gay parenting or heterosexual parenting. I'm not arguing that, because there's plenty of stats now to show that gay couples are just as good parents as heterosexual couples. There's no argument there. But there is an argument that is presented, and there's stats on that, to say that if you are in a single parent family, life is a lot tougher. The outcomes, there's stats here. I'll just find some of them here. Children raised by single mothers are more likely to fare worse on a number of dimensions, including their school achievement, their social and emotional development, their health, and their success in the labour market. There are greater risks of parental abuse and neglect, especially from live-in boyfriends who are not their biological fathers, most likely to become teen parents and less likely to graduate from high school or college. Not all children that were raised in single-parent families suffer these adverse outcomes, and I'm sure no one is arguing that. I'm certainly not. It's simply that the risks are greater for them. Like I said, I grew up in that environment. It is a lot tougher, and I know if I had the choice, I would, I would rather be with a mother and father, or father and father, mother and mother. Like I said, I want to stipulate that this isn't an argument for me about the rights, or when I say some equality to people who are parents, because I've seen, and I looked up the stats, and I dropped a heap of stuff I was going to speak about because I did more and more research and found there is more research now to show that children growing up in same-sex couples don't have the adverse reactions the same as what you do if you're in a single parent. It's a lot harder. So, and we've heard many of the issues with this bill, with whether it be the finances being paid or other things that have been mentioned here. Now, like I said, I'm skipping through stuff because there was a heap of stuff I've been away for a bit, and I had some research done, but I wasn't happy with what I was going to say today. I reassessed it, and also listening to more that has been said here today. So I'm changing around a little bit of what I sort of had first thought in my mind, because of what's being debated here today. That's what debates are about, is we bring arguments, and if people can change their mind, that's good. We should be open to having our opinions changed in life. And had you asked me many years ago about same-sex relationships, I probably would have spoken a lot stronger than I would today on that. But I'm here to represent people that voted me in, so I've tried to remove some of my personal feelings and take it more back to what I should be doing and what my constituents would expect me to do. And the single parent thing, I believe, I've spoken to a lot of people about it, I've made a lot of phone calls, they agree on that. Surprisingly to some I'm sure, but we do have quite a few gay supporters of One Nation. I've spoken to many of them and they've had in-depth conversations with me, and so I've taken on board a lot of what they've said because they are part of our society and they're supporters of mine. They voted for me to be here, so I'm representing them too. Now, there was back in the last Parliament, we had a forced adoption inquiry. We learned of the devastating impacts adoption have on biological families. That inquiry warned us against any policy that risks separating children from their roots without full accountability. There were 154 submissions and many hearings. And when we read through some of them stories, it can be really heartbreaking. We see how unmarried mothers were pressured by stigma and institutions and lack of support to relinquish babies, leading to a lifelong anguish, mental health issues like PTSD and a loss for adoptees. Survivors, including mothers, fathers and extended families, shared their stories of grief that rippled across generations. Drawing directly from those submissions, one mother from Perth described the unbearable void after her baby was taken in the 1970s. It led to decades of depression and family breakdown. Another adoptee from regional WA spoke of identity crisis that derailed their education and their career. The government's response was enhanced counselling and potential redress scheme. This bill glosses over similar risks with surrogacy, like exploitive contracts and disputed parentage. Labor's own report on forced adoption admitted these harms, so I'm not sure why we would push ahead without learning from some of that history. And like I said, this isn't an attack on same-sex partners. This is, for me, it's a digging down deep on when we bring children into this world. We as lawmakers in here can't stop people creating their own offspring, but we are creating laws to create babies. So we're having an impact on this. We're creating laws to do that. So just like when I worked at Child Protection and we used to assess foster carers and all that, there was all sorts of hoops they had to jump through to make sure they were good parents, and this isn't targeted at any individual moving forward, but I would say same as heterosexual couples who already have the ability to have this surrogacy, or same-sex or anyone else in this bill. This bill's softening down a lot of what was already there, but we should be making it harder. We should be making sure parents, there's a lot of bad parents out there, and not all the time deliberately bad parents. We all learn as we go along, and I think we should have more scrutiny in this bill, not taking away a heap of scrutiny in it. So if you think it's something you really want to have a child and you want lawmakers to give you that ability and allow you to use that technology to create a baby in this world, then I think it's reasonable that we should question them, same as we would a foster carer, because we're creating something, helping that happen. It's not like you're doing it yourself. We're making this law that helps you do that. So I think it's a pretty reasonable thing. We should be holding anyone who wants to use technology to create a child in this world more accountable, to make sure that it's in the best interest of the child, not the parent. It's not a human right. it's a privilege and a beautiful thing to have a child, but it's definitely not a right for anybody, whether that be heterosexual, same sex, and especially not single people. I don't believe, ideally in this world, we look at, I was looking at all sorts of stats in the US and that about how, you know, a lot of fathers going out of the homes, and all these stats put it down to just having single mothers and a lot of the fathers abandoning the family and that for a lot of the problems of, you know, children growing up. And I think that's got some merit, and it doesn't matter whether you bring what sex you are. I think when you have one person looking after a child, the resources it takes, the energy it takes, everything, you're bringing a child into an environment that isn't ideal, because there are lots of stats out there to say, ideally, what's normally not by choice, sorry? That's right. It's not by choice. So this is by choice, though. That's that's exactly my point.
No, your point. You're basically saying...
Members, please refer your remarks through the chair.
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, so that is my point. My point is that it's not by choice, so it's not ideal. So we're actually creating a law that makes it by choice to put them into that situation by choice. And that's just not right. It's not right to bring a child into this world. It's not right to, you know, have any child not having their biological parents to have some sort of connection to. I know personally I found it really hard growing up, even having my father away from me since I was 4, is losing that connection and understanding of always wondering, why are you like this? How do you do that? And I think people that are born through surrogacy will have that impact. So that's a bad thing already. I don't agree with surrogacy myself, I guess, as a personal opinion. I think we should leave it to nature, and if I hadn't been able to have children, then I would have accepted that. My sister can't have children. She's accepted that. I wouldn't have made a law for her just because it's my sister, even, because it's not something I think is appropriate. So as a whole, I don't actually agree with surrogacy, but even especially, like I said, when it is single individuals. Now, we've also got, it's included, it's single people, but it also mentions trans, and it'll offend people, but I don't mind, because that's up to them if they agree or not. But I think biological sex is a fact, and I definitely don't think transgender people should have access to surrogacy. And I know for a fact that my constituents would be happy for me to say that. Like I said, I've got many gay constituents that have talked to me about same-sex side of things of it. But as far as the trans ability to access the surrogacy, I completely disagree that this should be in the bill, that they should have access. So now, I mean, we've got 5,300 children in out-of-home care. I asked a question a little while back in Parliament about adopting children and that, and I think it was in 23, 24. There was only 23 adoptions in Western Australia. I mean, we've got so many young people there needing parents, needing love, and why are we not making it easier if we only had 23 in the whole of WA adopted in that whole year? Something's not right there, and there's 5,400 kids in out-of-home care. There's a lot of kids there needing help and needing parents to adopt them. So I think our focus, I mean, if this bill passes, I don't think it should pass with, like I said, the single parents and the transgender, and more needs to be done on the adoption side of things. If people want to have children in their lives, go foster a child. Go help a child that needs fostering in this state, because there's plenty of them. You know, it's really hard to find good foster carers, and if these people are so loving and want a child, help, you know, all them children already out there that also are lacking that love and really want that love. So now, going back to the transgender thing, the reason, even taking different arguments out of it, there is a lot of stats there to say in the transgender community there's a lot of mental health issues, you know, depression, different things. So already, if you go on stats, taking that aside from even just the single people, already as transgender community, there's all that mental health issue there, you know, and the statistics, I think I've got some here, are very high. So we're going to create a bill that allows people who are transgender, who have a very, very high rate of mental health issues, you know, have surrogate children. I just don't think that's right for our state or right for the children that are going to be born into them situations. So I'm just looking here. Anyway, I haven't got this, can't find the stats here, but it's very high. And like I said, we should be looking more on what is in the best interests of a child coming into the world, not the rights or the desires and wants of adult human beings. You know, we all, like I said, I can acknowledge that it's great. Having children is a great thing. Loving someone to love you and love back, that's a great thing. There's no reason you can't do that with children that aren't yours. I know many friends of mine who have got, that look after children that aren't their own. I know many that take on other people's children when they come into a relationship. They look after them children as if they're their own. So it's not like it needs to be yours. There's plenty of other options there that we don't need to make laws to allow a situation where you're putting children into a situation, like I said earlier, that's definitely not ideal, certainly not perfect, and we should be held accountable if we do. Every member here who votes in favour of this without changing the bill to change some of the things that are within it is responsible moving forward for the trauma that is experienced by all them young people that grow up with all that disconnected sort of disconnection from parents and the trauma that they will experience in their life. The people here will be responsible for that because you'll be creating that law for them, for that to be able to happen. Now, then you get back to the side of with women. You know, I using it like breeding cows, like just to me, it's like a commodity. You just, you know, I watched a documentary just recently in the Philippines, how young Filipino women who are already struggling and you know, their laws aren't quite as strong as probably what ours would be, but it's open to really bad things. People exposing these people that are poor, that have no money. There was one girl I watched, she had 2 children already, single mum. She become a surrogate parent, and then the person pulled out on her. And the only reason she was doing that was because she wanted to support her 2 young children she already had. So it was a money-making thing, even though the laws, it wasn't like ours. It was said by the Honourable Marika Grunwald how it's so open there and broad about, you know, the money and what you can pay for and how that happens. There's no reason the same couldn't happen here into the future where, you know, people with money they're pretty clever and they have access to a lot of legal information that, you know, poorer people don't have. I mean, and the part that allows an 18-year-old woman to have a baby for someone before ever experiencing that herself and having that connection of being a mother. I'm a man, so obviously I can't even identify as the woman having a baby, or like my sister was a 15-year-old mother. She gave up her child. So I've seen...
Order, member. I will leave the chair until the ringing of the bells.
Acting President. Now, before we broke for dinner there, I was bringing up in the bill about the changes to make it so that you could be 18 rather than the 25, and having having a child. And that to me was a real concern. One of the concerns I said at the beginning, I did have concerns about this bill, and it probably wasn't all the same ones as people would have expected. But at 18 years old, I've got, a daughter of my own who's now 21, and I've got a son who's 19. And so I do have teenage kids, and I was thinking about that at 18, a young woman who's never experienced giving birth before, and at 18 what her mind would be thinking. And it could be a good thing, they want to do good things for people in life. Young people, we see it in this day and age. I know my daughter and my son both are great kids. They try to help wherever they can in doing things in life, and I'm sure that extends even further as you go along in the right situations. There could be some young girl at 18 that has it in her mind, she just wants to help someone. And I wonder about the future implications in that. And I brought that up because of my sister who had her first baby at 15. And that baby was with us for a while, and I got to experience time with my nephew, who it was. And then it didn't stop there. My sister continued. She had some more children, and she put that child out to adoption. She gave up her child, and that was for different reasons. That was because she was young, didn't have the support networks in place. So it is a different situation, but I watched over many years my sister go through different things in her own mind, I guess, and talking to me about that of, giving up her child. So at the time she was young, and she didn't only give up one child. She ended up having another child, and at probably close to, around the 18-year-old mark, and gave that child up to the parent who had the first child. And I think there was a lot of regret there. And at the time, she thinking it was a good decision, but that biology says, that relationship between a mother and a child is very strong, and especially taking away at a young age, and that I think for both the parent and the child is quite devastating leading forward. And on top of that, there's the people around it too. So I don't know whether horrified or devastated or what word I use, but if my daughter at 18 had said to me she was having a baby to give away to someone for surrogacy, I would feel a bit sort of hurt, like it takes away. We're talking about rights of adults and what we have. Well, what about grandparents and stuff? If some, it's their choice, they're adults, they can do what they like, but there are other consequences and influences on other family that it affects. It's your choice. It's a woman's choice to do whatever she wants with her body. We know that. We get that conversation happening all the time. So that 18-year-old young girl is well within her right to choose to give birth and give that baby away. Fair enough. That's great. But we still can take into consideration, we do it when with foster kids and all different things, when they're looking at, with grandparents that have had all that connection with a child, and when it's going to be adopted out and stuff, there's still other family and extended family that can impact and could have a big devastating impact moving forward on their lives as well. So that makes me think in that part of it that we need to look at all that as well, and that it's not just one person it's affecting. It's not just affecting the person having the baby, not affecting just the family that the baby's going to, but there's all these other holistic areas of other people that it has an effect on. And then, like I said, the regret. At 18 years old, I don't understand why in this bill they've brought it back to 18, because I can use my sister as an example, like I said, who I've just spoken about, is that at that young age, you may think you're doing that decision, but you mature, your mind grows. We all grow more and more mature as we get older and older and learn things. So our ideologies, our beliefs, our influences are very different. So that decision at 18, not saying that all 18-year-olds are going to make bad decisions. It's not. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing that they want to do that. I'm saying that at 18, they really may not even know what that decision is going to have, the impact, the true impact on their life. Once they give that child up that they've had in their belly and they've brought it up, and I can only go on, I'm not a woman, I can go on what I've read and what my wife has said and what all my family that have had children and that bonding and the connection, they have the baby. And then you see it in the adoption cases all throughout the world when you read about that where, sign the papers before they get pregnant that they're going to let them, adopt this child. But it comes to the time, once they have it, they're like, there's some connection there that they didn't really think they would feel. So I think that poses them sort of issues in having that age at 18 rather than the 25, which it was in the first bill. And the experience of at least having a child, then that they've had that opportunity, they've experienced it, they've felt the love of their own child. I think their thought processes would be a lot different at 25 and to have already had a child than it would be at 18 not having a child. So, yeah, that for me is a really big concern in this bill. Like I said, there's other, in parts of the bill, I wasn't so worried about, the same-sex side, all that, and it's the changing of the parts in the bill like that and the single parents part, especially, like I said, the transgender. Got here, research highlights stigma-related experiences that could harm children's mental health, and one study notes surrogacy correlating with higher parental stress in transgender men. A recent study on transgender parents in the International Journal of Transgender Health reveals alarming levels of parental stress, with an average score of 50.4 and 92.7% showing depressive tendencies. Well, them statistics themselves are a bit technical. I'll quote from the conclusion of the article, and it stated, transgender parents experience significant parental stress influenced by mental health, socio-demographic, transgender-specific, family and socio-environmental factors. Enhanced family support and more inclusive social environments are crucial for reducing stress and improving the well-being of transgender parents and their children. Now, these are the kind of facts that demand accountability before we expand the surrogacy safeguards for kids moving forward. Where, like I spoke about before, we're creating laws to bring a baby into this world, into changing the surrogacy bill from what it was to, couples. Heterosexual couples to expanding to same-sex couples to expanding, and I'll state clearly again. There's parts of that I'm happy with. There's let parents be parents. They can be good parents, but when there are statistics to show that we will be creating laws to bring these children into high-stress parenting and the bill wants to ignore that reality that that parental stress can be toxic by doing that, by giving it to transgender, giving them the rights to surrogacy, because there are them stats there to back that up. And now, again, like I said, it was referred to before about, we've got laws for dogs about 8 weeks, taking it away from the birth parent dog. We've got things in place that seem more stringent on, we're just going to, bam, baby gets taken away, given to the new parents, when we don't even do that with our pets. We've got laws in place to keep them there for 8 weeks. So, I mean, the research that I did find showed that a child that is able to be with its mother for longer period of time in the future tends to do better in life when they have bonded with their birth parent, and that's just a statistic. I'm sure there's other statistics maybe go against that, but they're the statistics I've seen that you know, the ideal situation is for, you know, children to be with their birth parent and not. Like I said, I'm not a supporter of surrogacy in general, so it's not just what's being presented. I think it should be left to nature to take its path, and So anyway, I think I've probably said enough. I certainly won't be supporting the bill in its current form. Perhaps had it been resembling a bit more like it did the last one, with some expanded parts in it to bring parenting to maybe the same-sex couples, whatever that may be. But I can't, in good faith, support this bill, knowing that there's all these other things in there that I definitely don't agree with, and I'm sure my constituents don't for One Nation either, so thank you.